Welcome to the Father Focus podcast.
Father Focus.
Check.
Why are we talking about this? Why does it matter?
So shaping your kids into powerful people.
Bro, let that brother fly.
Check.
All right, let's
You
go.
ready?
All right, let's go. I'm with myself.
Well, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Father Focus podcast. Hope you are doing well today. We appreciate you hanging out with us. So today I have my co-host with me, Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy? How you doing, man?
Man, I am actually doing great. Busted myself up, man. You remember back in the day, we'd play football. I'd hit you on them slant passes.
Wow.
I did recently tear my Achilles. So
Oh.
I think it's time to hang up the cleats.
Well, I could have told you that 5 years ago. I mean, truthfully,
Well, I still got it, man. We were playing these guys. We were slaughtering them, but I ended up on the ground. Well, what
You go to
happened was,
rehab?
the Saints were really in a desperate need of a quarterback. So I was like, I think I got a shot. I think I can do it. So no, but seriously, we're just playing with some friends, and boom. But I'm all right. I'll
Man.
survive it.
you're suffering for the Lord, right?
That's
Suffering
it.
for
How
the
you
Lord.
doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah, life's good. Doing well. Just grinding, working away. The weather here is amazing. Life is good, man. Things are going well.
Yeah, well,
So
in South Louisiana, this is the first time the humidity is not like you're not pouring with sweat. So we're doing great at this time of the year too.
we have things to celebrate. All right. So Jeremy, I'm so excited about our guest today. Have a good friend of mine, man I deeply respect. He's got swag for days, and I think you guys are going to really be blessed and encouraged by my friend. So Corey Russell, we're so excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome, my friend. Glad you're here.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you guys. Love you, man.
Yeah, thank you for
Love
being
you
here.
too. Yes. So Corey, I know you're in Denver. You just moved your family. I was just there with you just a few weeks ago. Why don't you kind of tell our listeners a little bit about you, kind of your backstory, tell us about your family, your kids, kind of give them a glimpse of who you are as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally, you're going to hear a Southern accent, and so that's from Arkansas. It's a very sophisticated
go.
accent. Um, and so I was born and raised a little town in Northwest Arkansas, and great family, and normal, kid in high school, and really went deep into everything this world has to offer, and had a radical salvation in February of '97 in a college parking lot in Northwest Arkansas, and got hit by the power of God, and within a month had a drug ring of friends that had encounters like that. So we saw a move of God hit our hometown. First 6 months
Wow.
were 5 meetings a week till 3 in the morning, and just got baptized into the presence of God, and
Wow.
a vision for a move of God, and got married in '98. Me and my wife are coming on 25 years.
Wow.
And then so got married in '98, had our first daughter in '99, and then the Lord began to stir in our hearts and connect us to a ministry in Kansas City called the International House of Prayer. And we made the journey up there in December of 2000, where we would spend the next 18 plus years serving in Kansas City, and just being in the prayer room, ministering to the Lord. And then out of that, the Lord really began to open up doors where I traveled and wrote books, and really began to just kind of, proclaim the message. And back in 2019, we moved to Dallas. We now have, 3 daughters. We have a 23-year-old, 19-year-old, and 12-year-old. 3 years ago,
Wow.
we moved to Dallas to join the Upper Room in Dallas, and beautiful season. And then the Lord really began to make it clear that He wanted us to move to Denver. So 3 months ago, we moved up to Denver with our
Yeah.
family, and it's wild. And we're just building. I feel like the Lord's putting together prayer, local church, and mission, and so
Yeah.
that's a quick little bit about me.
Yeah. And you have your 3 daughters, right?
Yes.
Tell us their names and ages again.
Yeah, Trinity is 23, and Maya is 19, and Hadassah is 12.
Man.
So we got started early. Well, I was 22, and so I'm 45 now. So
Wow.
And you don't look a day over 44, I tell you. I mean, you
I
just look
appreciate that. I appreciate
amazing.
that.
But yeah, I think, one of the ways I kind of, when I tell people about Corey, I say, man, if you have any like lukewarm complacency, apathy about your faith, go listen to Corey Russell's sermon and you will be set ablaze for God again. Just something you have on your life. But before we get into serious stuff, I know you're a big sports guy. All right, I got a question for you. If you were to start an NBA franchise with one current NBA player, who would you pick and why?
I think
I'm
it's
pulling
a
for
really good
Nathan.
question. I'm so excited about what's coming up in the league right now. So many guys. I mean, Ja Morant is an absolute
know. I
showstopper.
know.
If you want to fill up the stadium, you get Ja on your team. Probably Luka
Yep,
Doncic would probably be one of the best, but
absolutely.
Ja's a stud, and then yep, one of them guys.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I just want to point out to Jeremy, because we have this debate often. He didn't say LeBron James. I just want to point that out to you, Jeremy,
You
to
did
be
say
clear.
current. You did say current.
LeBron is a current
But I mean,
NBA
he's
player.
also not in his prime.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really the question. 18-year-old LeBron, you're picking LeBron every time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
But not over Jordan.
Hey, 20-year-old Jordan. I don't know how old Jordan was going in. Let's say 22-year-old Jordan or 22-year-old LeBron James. Who you picking?
Jordan. I mean,
right.
no. I would take LeBron. I would take
That's
LeBron.
my man. Come on, somebody.
Dude, he came out of the league and took it over at 18.
Oh,
Yes.
man. This
And
hurts.
he's
This
still
hurts.
a top 5 player, and he's been in the league for 20 plus years.
He's just a bad GM, and he needs to stay in his own lane.
Wow. Man, this
They're
hurts.
having to reap. They're having to reap the fruit of his decisions of having some of these players over there, and now they're stuck.
That's it.
Yeah, he's not winning another championship.
Oh
There's no
no!
way.
Oh no!
There's no way he's done. Man, that hurts my heart, Corey. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought for sure I had another Jordan guy on my team.
Hey,
no,
Nathan, the
it's all
wounds
right.
of a friend, bro. The wounds of a friend.
But I would take 30-year-old Jordan over 30-year-old LeBron.
Hey. So we really both lose in this conversation. And Corey wins because he's smarter than both of us, essentially, is what's happening. That's awesome, man. So Corey, we have a lot of dads, probably 40 and under, and as you know, because you have kids that came up in the last generation, a lot of guys without dads, right? It's probably just as common for a guy to grow up without a father as to have one in their home. And so really we're trying to kind of raise the standard of what it means to be a man and a father in our generation, as both millennials. And so I know you said you started young, which, can kind of be that crucible of figuring out what it means to be a father. But, like, talk to us about what are some of the ways that being a dad at a young age, like, really changed you as a man?
Yeah, I'd like to say with my first two, I was a lot more intense of a dad, with my first two.
Yep. Yep.
I don't think we had a TV for about 5 years, and I prayed. Everything was a prayer meeting. We had every night we would sit down, and it was just, I would say I was a lot more spiritual of a dad and intense of a dad in my earlier years. But I think I'm a better dad with my 12-year-old, but it's a lot more hanging out. It's a lot more hanging out and a lot more of the in-between times that when I've gotten older, I've been able to settle down more and just enjoy the process and see the handiwork of God and trust his work to bring my kids
Wow.
to where they need to be, versus the whole thing resting on me and me maybe being driven by fear in some ways.
Wow. Wow. So would you say a lot of the like spiritual emphasis you put in your home was really driven by a fear of what would happen to your kids if you didn't really push the spiritual stuff?
Yeah, I just didn't want my kids being I mean, I think it's like everything. It's a little bit of both. It's you feel the call as a dad. You want to shepherd your kids, disciple your
Right.
kids,
Sure. Yeah.
and you want them encountering God for themselves and not just living through you or vicariously
Right.
just, being on the boat thinking they're going to catch it, by osmosis. So part of it was the well intention and me taking the responsibility as a dad, but some of it was, yeah, there was a fear, that was part of those years of me just getting delivered from fear
Mm.
Hmm.
of that drove everything that I did.
Wow.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. I don't know if you can, Jeremy, but
Absolutely. I mean, I have Corey. I have 5 kids, 5 young kids. I've been married for 16 years now, and my oldest is 9. The youngest is not even 2 yet, and
Wow.
so I'm kind of right in that mix there. And I love having kids. And and I'm not naturally a fearful person. I'm not somebody who falls prey to conspiracy theories like that. And
Yeah.
but honestly, sometimes like with my kids, it is a little bit different because I want them to have a good education. I want
right.
them to love the Lord. I want them to enjoy sports, and I will manage who their friends are, especially at this point in their life.
Yeah.
And sometimes fear does kind of start
Yeah,
pricking
for
at you.
sure.
I got a little bit of question, and especially as it relates to that. Being someone who travels a good bit, like how do you um, keep a connection with your kids? Like how are you just staying connected in their lives as someone who travels? And maybe how often do you travel? And what do you do during those weeks to just try to make them let them girls know, hey, I'm still here. You call me anytime. You're number
Yeah.
one. The work is not number one. Like you're number one in our life. Just maybe talk to us a little bit about your
Absolutely.
schedule and what you do for a living.
Yeah. I mean, I, uh, I spent, I have traveled quite a bit from about 2005 to the present. I've kept a pretty rigorous travel schedule. I
Mm,
think the thing that I've been really intentional about is one is I kept it
mm,
mostly to weekends, Friday, Saturday, home by
Mm.
Sunday, and then most of my days for the last 20 years has ran about a six to two or 6 to 1. I've been able to set my own schedule. I would always go to the 6 to 8 prayer meeting, come home, take them to school,
yeah.
pick them up. And so all my days were done by 2 and probably a little crazy in it, but we didn't do much in the evenings outside
Okay.
of our time as a family. The we had the sports, we had the things, but it was
Right.
those that 2 to 8 o'clock 4 days a week, at least 4 days a week. That was us time.
Yeah.
And I just we did all kinds of things that filled into that, but they knew that was it. I didn't do a lot of evening stuff during the weeks.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this: for our dads who are listening right now, some of us are actually able to take our kids to school, and some may not be able to. Um, But talk to us a little bit about those car rides. Like that was a time that you knew you're going home, you're getting the girls, taking them to school. What did those car rides look like, and how can we be intentional about car rides?
Yeah, and for dads that are able to do it or even have the ability to shift things around, I've found them to be the best moments.
Mm.
Uh, and the older I've gotten, that's where I'm finding meeting them and you kind of got them shut off, and it's just you and them.
Yep.
And then
Right,
when you get
right.
to the teenage years, it's a whole, you get your seatbelt on. And so just all those windows. And so, I've just found the best conversations, the best times to worship together. We always would, listen. It's more chill in the mornings, but it's mostly worship and small prayers. But then after the day, it's what the golden question, how was your day? And then letting that unfold at a point where they're transitioning and you're able to get into places in their heart,
Mm.
some difficulties with some friends at school. or whatever. You're getting some windows into their life. It was actually my favorite thing to do is to, and so I did the
Wow.
majority of it,
Yeah.
taking and picking up. And I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed it because of the window, and everything else is shut off. And it's just you and them.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love the intentionality to that. That's kind of one of the things we talk about pretty often is I think fathering isn't so much about knowing everything, but more so about having an intentional plan and continuing to faithfully show up and serve and love your kids. So I think that's beautiful. I'll ask a follow-up question because probably some dads travel and don't have control over their schedule. What advice would you give a dad who travels a lot but wants to stay connected to his kids? Like, how could he do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's continuing to just pursue. I
Okay.
think it's just
Yeah.
continuing to pursue based on their ages and based on how open they are, and not, I think just constantly knocking at the door of, hey, man, I'm here. Let's do something. Let's go get
Yeah.
an ice cream. I'll take you somewhere. I'll buy you whatever you want.
Mm,
I'll do this. No, I'm serious. Like I do all that. Like I'll do this. I'll do that. Just constantly letting it be told, Dad's coming after me. And you might
Yeah.
get a
That's good.
month of them not responding, but they're knowing they're being pursued. And and I've just been really intentional about that. One, about pursuing my wife in front of my kids, and then pursuing them to
wow.
know that I it matters, and I come after them, and then I let them know if I'm hurt. As a dad, I'm probably the most. I take that back. We've got a lot of teenagers, but I'm one of the most emotional ones in our family. So
Mm,
um, the point of I let them know when it hurts me, um,
Mm.
and that I love you and I want to be close to you, and I know I don't do
Yeah.
good
That's
enough. And
awesome.
so,
wow.
um,
Wow.
so
That's great. No, I mean
Mm.
that's powerful. It's not something I'm very good at. Like I'm not real great at talking about my emotions at any level, but I think the point you're trying to make is there's a level of vulnerability required to be a father
Yeah.
that your kids I think need to see. So I think that's a good reminder to dads, especially when they're absent and then they come back into the home. I think that
Yep.
intentionality and vulnerability are really important. So I'm going to switch gears because, when I was there, I met your daughters and they all seem very strong and confident. Um, and I think, like I have twin girls and I know Jeremy has three daughters. Um, I know probably for all dads, you want your daughters to be strong and confident. You want them
Yep.
to not be intimidated by the world. You want them to know that they can do anything. And so, how did you and I know Dana too is a great mom. How did you guys develop that in your kids, that confidence and that strength? Like your daughter was leading worship that one morning I was there, and just absolutely phenomenal. And like what did you do as a dad to develop strong daughters?
I've just talked straight with them since they were, 7, 8, 9. There wasn't
Yeah.
like a junior. I mean,
Mm,
I told them about life. I think living an authentic life in front of them, um,
Mm.
mm,
talking straight to them, just as far as who they are, what they could do, where I see them missing it, saying, "Hey, you're doing this. Don't lie here. Don't manipulate there.
mm,
Don't play that.
Mm.
We're not doing that."
Right.
But then also to championing, however you say that word, championing um, who they are, and constantly
Yeah.
telling
yeah.
them, I see when you touch
Mm,
the keys, he comes. When you do this, he comes. Your heart for
mm,
people moves me. Uh,
Mm.
mm,
and I think really speaking to their gifts, and getting them secure, one, in what they do as the Lord's called them to be, but also to
Mm.
safety at home. I think strong. I think and part of our story, as you know, we had to walk through the loss of a son.
yeah.
Mm.
And we lost a son in 2013 at almost a year. And so
Oh man.
you walk into one of those seasons.
Mm,
Um, and I probably did this a little wrong. We've had to walk through some healing with it, but I didn't want my girls to take on a victim mentality And
Wow.
I told them, I said, your brother is with you, and we're going to turn this story around, and there's going to come beauty out of this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're not going to be labeled as the sister who lost her brother. And because that, I'm allowed to do this. I wanted them to take it and say, you know, we want to let this story fuel us into God instead of
Wow.
an excuse to live a certain way because of
Yeah.
things we've been through.
That's an
Wow.
interesting dynamic. Obviously, I mean that's a huge
That's
that
heavy.
makes a huge impact on a
Yeah.
family. And so, obviously, the people who are listening would have experienced things like that, maybe similar, the death of a child, a parent, just tragic things that happen in the home. As a dad, managing your house with your wife, and y'all are. Chasing after God, trying to process and heal. Um,
Yeah.
how do you, I guess, find like a sweet spot between being maybe overly passive and let them do it on their own, or you being like, no, 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 I want to fix this. I don't want them to hurt. Like, how do you like navigate the
Yeah.
hardship between
Yeah. That's hard. Yeah.
wanting them to be able to be successful in a sense through the journey that y'all are all on. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Or maybe in other scenarios, like being an overly possessive dad or like hands off, like where's the middle ground if there is one, just from your experience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just engage, fathers. Do your best, and trust. And I always think this is really good for us all to hear. One, we engage. One, we come after and we seek to develop our kids. But this is something good for us to all hear too, is that they're God's babies before they're your babies. And
Yeah.
they're his before they're yours. And to trust God's ability to even take your failures and where you didn't do it right, or you didn't say it right, or you disengaged, and to trust God's
Yeah.
goodness to fill in the gaps, because there is no perfect dad out there. Jesus said,
Yeah.
if you being evil know how to give your good gifts to your
Yeah.
children, he called all of us evil compared to our Heavenly Father,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which means everybody's jacked up. All right. Everybody's on a journey and a process. And you try to do one thing right, you'll do 10 other things wrong. Then you try to do that thing right. And then there'll be four other things wrong. And so I think one is abounding in the grace of God, because we walk through it, and I'm a fixer. Men are fixers
Yeah.
Yep.
by nature. And when you don't know how to deal with unfixable situations, you shut down because you don't know what to do when you're dealing with a situation like that. And mine's a really extreme story.
Right.
But I would say I started off really intense about, no, this is not going to define us. We're going to come through. We're going to turn this story around. Devil's going to pay. Da 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 da
Mm.
da. And the more of the journey that's happened is he's gotten my hands off of it,
Wow.
and I've been able to invite and be with my children in grieving, in pain, letting repenting when I did disengage, when
Mm.
I didn't fully, when I wasn't fully there mentally and emotionally and presently, and owning that and inviting them into that space, but saying, hey, we're in this thing together. So I would say I did the most transformation in the last 8 or 9 years as
Wow.
it relates to my kids, because they didn't, I always want to be their hero, but I wanted to also, the Lord was bringing me into a new place of presentness that I
Mm.
earlier wasn't very good at.
Wow.
Wow. That takes a
Any-
lot of humility. That takes a lot of humility as a dad to own that. And I feel like there's kind of been a thread through this whole conversation just about like walking through failure, disappointment, and pain, and then rebounding from that and learning and growing. And I'm sure you have something really valuable to share with dads who kind of, because I feel like we talk to a lot of dads who just feel like, I'm not equipped, I can't do this, I'm not the right person, and want to kind of pawn off that responsibility to somebody else. Like, what would you say to dads that are like kind of living in that ditch of failure, that feel like the unqualified, can't do it, can't change things, their kids are too far gone? Like, what would you say to a dad like that?
Mm.
I I would say look at your Father in heaven. I think I think the greatest, there's a principle in Scripture called beholding becoming, that what we behold in God, we reflect to others. And so, like everything else, do better, try harder, do that. I would say to all the fathers out there that feel that, your inability to get out of the ditch, it might be related to how you feel God feels towards you
Wow.
in your life. And that the empowerment to become a different person is not found in your willpower, but is found in transformation through letting the Father encounter those broken places in you.
Wow.
And so I would one say, when you let the Father hit you in that place, and then show up in all of your brokenness and all of your, I've told her this 100 times and failed again. But I believe that in the place of brokenness and humility and vulnerability, God does a miracle through it all to release transformation and to open up that highway again for your kid, for your child. And I think the Lord works a lot in that. But you got to get over yourself, come out of it, and fight for your kids because there's so much at stake.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So dads, if you're out there listening, I mean, I feel like courage is being offered to you as a father to invite God in to your heart and allow him to reignite you with fresh courage and passion to be who God's called you to be. That's not too late. And I hope you hear what Corey's saying, that this is not the end. This is an opportunity to start a new path with your father, that really it's not about your strength or your ability, but God through you equipping you to be the man he's always created you to be. Corey, I love that, man. That is so powerful. Wow. Wow. So encouraging.
We
Man,
love
thank you.
we love the story of Luke 15,
Mm,
and we usually use it for the kid that's been on drugs and he comes back. I think that Luke 15:20, where it says that the Father saw him, felt compassion,
mm,
ran, embraced him, and kissed him, is
wow.
how God deals with you fathers in your most vulnerable places.
Yeah.
And that you're not going to be able to get out of the ditch until you see a father who sees you, feels compassion, runs towards you, embraces you, and kisses you while you're still working it out.
Wow. Wow. What would you say to dads that struggle with that, right? To them, it seems so intangible. You know, like those moments when you feel like that concept's a million miles away. Where do they start if they're having problems even like grasping what you're saying?
You look, you know, you look at Luke 15:20 until you feel it. You read it over and over again. You say it over yourself. God, you see me in my most vulnerable places. And the vulnerable places can be showing your emotion to your 6-year-old.
Yeah.
We got strong men that get absolutely hammered by a 6-year-old little girl because he doesn't know how to brave that frontier of knowing how to get into her heart and knowing what to say to her, how to
Mm,
say it, when to say
That's
it,
right.
where to say it. And we're just so like there's no super guys out there. We're all on a process.
yeah.
And I think the point is, God, I need you to. It's not just saying, well, I don't feel, I can't do it. I need God to tenderize me. The spirit of religion is harsh. The revelation of the Father
Wow.
tenderizes you, and it transforms you into a father that will run
Mm,
after your kids when they're not making straight A's on the test, when they're maybe hanging out with some of the wrong kids, when they're being stupid. Can you run towards them instead of this,
mm,
unrealistic bar of approval or whatever? I'm just talking. But
wow.
anyway,
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I think there's just naturally this tendency to put pressure on your kids to force them to change. It doesn't actually produce the result you want, but we default to that because we want control more than influence. And so I think
like
what you're saying is so powerful. Yeah, go ahead.
no, but even too when they get older too, and some of you dads, you're powerful guys. You make a lot of money in your worlds, or you're strong or whatever, and just allowing your kids to kind of find their way too into their own journey as well. And anyway,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
all right, one more question I want to ask you, Corey, and then we'll kind of wrap up with something else. I know you pray. I know you spend your life before the Lord. What advice would you give dads who want to take on that responsibility? I feel like it's a God-given mandate for us as fathers to intercede for our kids in the secret place. What advice would you give to dads who aren't praying for their kids but want to start? What do they do? How do they kind of stay engaged when it feels ineffective or mundane? Like, I know you've walked this out in your life. What does that look like?
um, I think it does matter. Well, one is that's one of the, Lou Engle. A lot of people know who Lou Engle is. He used to say this phrase. He was saying even about his own personal holiness. He was saying, God, let there be no holes in my covering. And how he, the things he looked at, whether it be, Lord, protect me from the pornography or the different things like that. But I would say, I don't think we understand, men, you don't understand the role that you play in the spirit and the covering that you provide for your
Come on.
family.
Come on.
And the fact that you are a shield around your family. That's how God's built us, are protectors. We're fixers, but we're protectors and we're
Yes.
providers. It's how God's wired us. So I want to you may not believe this yet. I want to say that your greatest way to protect your children is prayer.
Wow.
Your greatest way to protect your children is prayer. Now, that's going to hit a lot of unbelief. But then it brings you to the next question of what happens when you pray. I believe that the weak words offered by broken men have great power in the hands of God, and that God
Yes.
takes those weak words and he releases. He actually, it moves into the natural to protect, to keep, to guard, to
Yeah.
deliver, and to strengthen your children.
Mm.
The
Yes.
power of your prayers, it does something in the spirit. And
Wow.
when Jesus came down from the Mount of Transfiguration, there was a father who had stirred up a whole crowd at the base of the mountain over his epileptic son. And he brought them to the Pharisees, he brought them to the disciples, and finally he got Jesus. And just to think about a
Yes.
father that can get Jesus to move and to stir him to move is a powerful thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
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 Man, that's
Wow,
great.
man. Yeah. I hope you feel encouraged, dads out there. Man, there's a lot. So I just kind of recap everything you said. I think the importance of intentionality, keep leaning into your kids, being present, listening, taking time to be with them. I think the
And
importance of what you
chasing him.
shared.
I
Yeah,
I
chasing
love
them down.
just
Yeah,
to jump in.
yeah.
I love
Wow.
that you're saying you're after them and you want them to
Yeah,
know. That's what he said about his girls. He wants them
mm,
to know that I'm after you.
yeah,
I really
yeah.
appreciated that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I love what you shared about the revelation of the Father, that you can never be the Father God's created you to be without knowing your Father.
Mm,
I think that truth, I mean, we could chew on that the rest of our life. And then what Corey shared about prayer. I mean, the importance of getting on your knees, that the most powerful thing you can do to protect your kids is in the place of prayer. So I hope that encouraged you guys. Corey, that was phenomenal, man. Thank you so much for everything you shared. And dads, I hope you're encouraged to be the man God's called you to be.
yeah.
You got this. You got this for sure.
You
All right,
got
so we're going to
this.
switch gears, kind of how we wrap up this episode every time. So this is kind of rapid fire question, just like first thing that pops in your head. So we're going to ask you 5 questions and just kind of shoot off the hip. So here's the first one. Favorite part about being a dad?
I just love family. I love being surrounded. And I love I'll just tell you this, it's hard to answer these questions. I love the different personalities. I love the different
That's right.
aspects
Yeah.
of myself and each one of the
Yeah,
kids and what they speak back to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome.
I next biggest challenge as a dad.
Biggest challenge as a dad, I think staying present
Mm,
and being
Yeah,
attentive.
yeah, yeah. It's awesome. All right. What was the
Especially when you're
first thought?
tired.
Yeah, no joke. All right, Corey, what did you do when you found out Dana was pregnant with your first kid?
I don't know. It was a long time ago. Um, I don't.
23 years.
It was 23 years ago. Dude, with all of them, we celebrate. We celebrated. We're like,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah,
goodness, we've been married
yeah.
5 months. I guess we're jumping into the deep end quick. Here we go.
There you go, man. Yeah.
We had been married 6 months and then got pregnant. So I'm like, all right, I'm 22 years old. I'm
Oh
like, let's
man.
go.
Hey, got grown quick. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
next one. Fail moment as a dad. Fail moment.
Fail? Oh,
Yeah,
I mean,
failure.
oh yeah. Just saying the wrong thing at the wrong time to a teenage daughter on her period. saying, you know, saying what she hasn't done right or speaking in a wrong way, a wrong tone, and digging myself into business I don't need to be talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's gonna be me the rest of my life for sure.
When I got
But
when I got
I
three
hadn't been there
daughters,
yet.
and it's all landmines during the month, so it's all
Oh no.
All right, last question. What's one thing that you feel like you did as a dad looking back that made a big impact on your kids? Maybe a practical example.
I mean, the biggest thing that I feel like I did right that I'm really happy about is I love Jesus more than anybody else. I
Wow.
passionately pursued Jesus. I burned for him, and they saw me crying when talking to him twice as much as me telling them rules about following him.
Wow.
Mm,
I can't think of a better way to end this episode than that.
that's awesome.
Man, drop that mic. Drop that mic. That
Boom.
was powerful. Yeah. Well, Corey, man, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes.
I don't know about anybody else, but I am super encouraged right now. I
Yeah.
am super encouraged. Well, thank you so much for being here. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it encourages you as a dad to be everything that God has
I
called
was
you to be.
encouraged.
Yeah. We're getting wrecked over here on this recording right now. And I hope you are too. Just thank you guys for listening with us, supporting us. You know what we'd love for you to do is to leave a review of this podcast. Let us know how we're doing on any of the platforms. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us on all social media platforms. And we are on social media as well at the Father Focus Podcast. So thank you guys for supporting us. Go be a killer dad for your family. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Peace.